If you grew up in the 70s, you already know this truth. Some R&B songs didn't just play on the radio, they caused problems. I'm talking about the records that made you reach for the volume knob when your parents walked in, the ones DJs played after midnight, the ones that had church aunties calling it the devil's music, and the ones that started real arguments like, should this even be on air? So in this countdown, we're going back to the 20 most controversial R&B and soul songs of the 1970s, the scandal makers, the banned in some places classics, the grown folk anthems that helped change what music was allowed to say out loud. And trust me, number one is the record that made people say, nah, that's too much for radio. If you weren't there, you might not understand how wild it felt to hear Diana Ross get that close to the edge. Because Diana Ross wasn't just a singer, she was a symbol. She was the polished face of Motown glamour, the kind of star your parents could play around the house without worrying who might walk in the room. So when Love Hangover came out, it wasn't just a song. It was a moment where people went, wait, Diana's doing this now? And the genius of Love Hangover is how it plays you. It starts like a slow, aching confession, soft, tender, like somebody sitting on the edge of the bed after a long night, trying to act normal, trying to sound calm, but you can hear the truth in the voice. I'm not okay. I'm stuck on you. And that theme, being addicted to love, being unable to quit, wasn't always the kind of story people wanted playing on the radio in broad daylight. But at night, it was the truth. And that's why it stuck. Love Hangover is controversial because it's the sound of a very public star stepping into a very private feeling and doing it so smoothly that you almost don't notice you're blushing until it's too late.
If this song just hits you in that quiet place, don't let this moment be a one-time thing. Subscribe to Demo. We're building a home for real R&B and soul, the kind that heals, the kind that tells the truth. Hit subscribe and come back whenever you need a song that understands you.
Now, Ring My Bell is a different kind of controversial. This isn't the sad after midnight kind of groan. This is flirtation with a smile. This is playful. This is sugar with a sharp edge. And to me, that's why people argued about it so much, because it sounded so fun. If a song sounds dangerous, adults can warn you. They can point at it and say, that's not for you. But if a song sounds like a party, if it sounds like something you'd hear at a cookout, on the radio at the grocery store, in the background while people are dancing, then it can sneak in. And Ring My Bell absolutely snuck in. It's got that bouncy disco R&B pulse. It's clean, crisp, catchy. The melody sticks immediately. It's one of those songs where you hear it once and you're already humming it while walking away. A lot of older controversial songs were about men chasing. This one feels like a woman setting the tone, setting the rules, calling the shots, and smiling while she does it. That confidence is part of what made it feel bold. So yeah, it was controversial because people argued about the meaning and the message. But it also became timeless because it sounds like freedom. Freedom to flirt, freedom to dance, freedom to be playful without apologizing. I'm in love with Mary Jane. Now let's be real. If you hear Rick James's name, you already know we're not entering a quiet room. Rick didn't do subtle the way other artists did subtle. He did it his own way, loud in attitude, smooth in the groove, and always walking right up to the line just to see who's watching. Mary Jane is controversial for one reason and one reason only. Everybody knew what Mary Jane meant. And even if you didn't know at first, you figured it out fast. Because the song is written like a love story. It's tender. It's affectionate. It treats Mary Jane like a person you can't quit. someone you miss, someone who calms you, someone who takes you away from stress. But it also meant it could spark arguments in every household because everybody brought their own understanding to it. So if you grew up around this record, you probably remember the feeling. Somebody sings along happily, and somebody else gives them that look like, you know what that's about, right? That's Mary Jane. Sweet-sounding controversy.
Get your gold, come here, girl. One more time, you hear what I said? I wanna ride.
This one right here is pure chaos in a 3-minute funk ride. Love Roller Coaster is controversial for 2 reasons. First, it's very clearly about sex, about the highs and lows, the up and down, the thrill, the danger, the whole, I don't know if this is going to end well, but I'm getting on anyway. Second, it became wrapped in one of the most famous rumors in music history. If you know, you know. That scream. For decades, people have argued about it. People swore they heard something happening in the studio. Some folks said it was a real scream from a real situation. Others said it was nothing, just a sound, just the band playing around, just a myth that grew legs. But that's what R&B did in the 70s. It forced real life into the soundtrack. And musically, this is one of those records that proves funk isn't just party music. It's craft. The groove is tight, the band is locked in, the vocals are playful but controlled. The whole thing moves like a machine. It's a hit because it feels like motion, like you're already on the ride. And that's why the controversy clung to it so well. The song is already a little scary in the best way. It sounds like temptation with a grin.
But what gets to you most of all?
Now, if the other songs in this group are grown, Millie Jackson is the auntie who says the grown part out loud. Millie was controversial because she didn't just flirt with the line. She stepped over it, looked back, and kept walking. The rap is one of the clearest examples of a certain 70s tradition. The spoken intro, the talking scene, the "let me tell you what happened" storytelling that feels like you're sitting at a table hearing somebody's personal business.
I found out that when a man starts tipping away from home.
And that was powerful because it made music feel like real life. But it was also dangerous for mainstream radio because real life includes things polite society doesn't want said in public. Now, if you've been with me this far, you already feel the pattern. These records didn't just push buttons. They changed what listeners expected from soul music.
Saying them to keep them. Cause you got a whole lot of women out there these days, just like me.
And the craziest thing? Most of them sound normal today. That's how you know they were ahead of their time. Back then, they were too much. Now, they're classics. And that's the mark of real cultural impact, when the thing people feared becomes the thing everyone later calls legendary. I'm going to be honest. The first time I heard this song, I didn't even need the lyrics. The title alone felt like somebody turning around in a crowded room and saying something they should have whispered. Because in the 70s, even grown folk music had rules. You could imply, you could flirt, you could slide around the meaning with metaphors. But Leon Haywood said it straight. I want to do something freaky to you. No poetry, no cover story, just a direct line with a smooth voice and a groove that doesn't rush or apologize. And that's why it hit like a shock to some people. The 70s had this adult realism wave in soul music. People were tired of pretending love was always polite. Real relationships weren't polite. Real desire wasn't polite. It was messy, playful, urgent, complicated. And Leon Haywood gave that reality a soundtrack. So the controversy wasn't just that it was explicit. It's that it was adult in a way that wouldn't act shy. And if you grew up in that era, you remember how certain songs became time and place music. You didn't play it at 2 p.m. on a Sunday at your grandma's house. But late night? Oh, late night is exactly where this record lived. Now this one was a whole situation. Pillow talk is controversial because it brings you into the bedroom and doesn't pretend it's not doing that. But again, what made it dangerous wasn't just the subject, it was the delivery. Sylvia sounds intimate, close. Like the mic is right there and you're not supposed to be listening. And the whole vibe of the song is a private conversation turned into a public hit. That's the part people couldn't handle. Because the 70s still had that public respectability culture, even as the music was getting freer. Folks would act open-minded in theory, but then a song like Pillow Talk comes on in the car with family, and suddenly everybody's coughing, changing the station, adjusting the mirror, acting like the song isn't happening, because the real fear isn't the song. The fear is the idea that people, especially young people, will learn intimacy through records before they learn it through life. And that's what Pillow Talk represented. A door opening. And once that door opens, you can't close it again.
Seems nobody's interested in learning but the teacher.
Now let's flip the taboo, because sex wasn't the only thing that made people uncomfortable. Truth did too. Ball of Confusion is controversial because it's a legendary group, the Temptations, stepping out of romance and stepping into chaos. And they don't do it gently. This song is like reading headlines at full speed. It throws the world's problems at you: war, race, politics, fear, drugs, poverty, like a flood. And for a group known for smooth suits, choreography, and love songs, this was a shift. But it was a necessary shift. But that's the point. The 70s were forcing everybody to stop pretending. And a song like Ball of Confusion became one of those records that adults argued about, not because it sounded bad, but because it sounded true. And truth is always controversial, especially when it's catchy. Now Stevie in the 70s was on a different level. He wasn't just making hits. He was making statements. He was using funk and soul like a newspaper. You Haven't Done Nothin' is controversial because it's Stevie, America's beloved musical genius, aiming straight at political leadership and basically saying, "We see through you." That's bold. Because criticism coming from a radical artist is expected by some people. They'll dismiss it as, that's what they do. But criticism coming from Stevie Wonder? That lands differently. Stevie wasn't being controversial for attention. He was being controversial because he felt responsibility. And that record has the sound of somebody who's tired of promises. That's what makes it still powerful today. It's not just a song from 1974. It's a feeling that keeps coming back. And that's why it belongs in a list like this. Controversy isn't always sex. Sometimes it's a mirror. And Stevie held the mirror up.
I gotta split the scene with the community wine stuck in their back pockets.
Now this is where we step into a different kind of heat. Not bedroom heat, street heat, revolution heat. The last poets were controversial because they were direct in a way that scared people. This wasn't let's all get along music. This was warning music.
And blood runs through the streets of Harlem, drowning anything.
Spoken word that sounded like a gathering, like a movement, like something happening outside the radio studio, something real. And what made it even more intense is the way it talks about comfort. Taboo wasn't just sex. Taboo was speaking plainly. Taboo was a woman sounding intimate on record. Taboo was a legendary group naming social chaos. Taboo was Stevie calling out leadership.
And 6 revolutions. Understand the cycle that never ends.
Taboo was poets warning the comfortable. And the reason this matters is because these songs didn't just cause arguments. They expanded the space of what black music was allowed to say in public.
When the revolution comes, black cultural centers we fought.
They made the radio a battlefield and a bedroom at the same time. And if you lived through it, you remember. Sometimes you turned the volume down, not because the record was bad, but because it was too real for the room you were in.
Eruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by...
I remember the first time I really heard this. Not just listened, but heard it. It didn't feel like a song. It felt like somebody grabbed the microphone and interrupted regular programming. Like, hold up, stop what you're doing, listen. And that's the point. Gil Scott-Heron wasn't trying to make you comfortable. He was trying to wake you up.
Run, or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to...
The revolution will not be televised is controversial because it calls out the biggest trick modern society plays. The idea that you can consume change like entertainment. Gil is basically saying, real change is not a show. It's not a commercial. It's not something you sit back and watch. You'll have to be involved.
Nor sung by Glenn Campbell, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, Engelbert Humperdinck, or The Rare Earth, The Revolution.
And in 1971, with all the tension in America, war, civil rights, distrust of power, this message didn't land softly. And if you grew up around grown folks who were politically aware, you remember how songs like this weren't played as background music. They were played like statements. Somebody puts it on, and the room gets quiet. Not because it's pretty, because it's true.
Good God, y'all. Well.
Now this is a different type of protest. Gil is sharp and poetic. Edwin Starr is a hammer. War is controversial because there's no metaphor hiding the message. It's not subtle. It's not polite. It's not let's see both sides. It's war. What is it good for? And the answer is absolutely nothing.
In the younger generation, induction, the destruction, who wants to die?
That kind of directness is dangerous in any era, especially during a time when patriotism was being used like a weapon against criticism. In 1970, a lot of people were still treating anti-war talk like betrayal.
Ow! Get it! All right, well.
And you get other people saying, no, this is truth. That's what a record like War does. It splits the room, and that's why it belongs in this list. It proves that sometimes the most controversial art isn't the most explicit. Sometimes it's the most direct. Now, if Edwin Starr is a hammer, the Easley Brothers are a whole street corner. Because Fight the Power doesn't just protest something far away like foreign war. It protests the day-to-day power system people felt on their neck. This record is controversial because it's not shy about conflict. It's not asking permission.
We gotta fight the power that
It's not praying for kindness from the same structures that are hurting people. It's saying, fight it. And that word, fight, was a trigger for a lot of listeners, especially in the mid-70s when the country was tense and tired and divided. Some people heard, fight the power, and felt energized, like, finally, somebody's saying it. Others heard it and treated it like a threat. R&B was always political in that way, because if you're singing about your life honestly, and your life is shaped by power, then power ends up in the lyrics whether you want it or not. So, Fight the Power is not just a song, it's a signal. It's the soundtrack of people refusing to keep their heads down. Now let's talk street reel cinema, because Pusherman is one of the most controversial records of the 70s for a very specific reason. It tells the story from the perspective of the dealer. That makes people uncomfortable, because some listeners only want good guys and bad guys. They want the message clean, but Curtis Mayfield was too smart for that. He understood that the streets are complicated. He understood that the drug trade wasn't just about bad choices. It was about desperation, poverty, temptation, and systems that set people up. So he writes Pusherman like a character piece, like a movie scene, and Pusherman sits right in the middle of that. It's street art with consequences. It's cinema with a beat. And whether you love it or fear it, you can't deny the craft. Curtis Mayfield made a moral story without preaching. He let the scene speak for itself. That's why it lasts. Now I know what you might be thinking. Why is this here with protest records? Because this is the twist of the 70s. Sex was political too. Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On is controversial because it helped bring adult sensuality into the mainstream with a level of confidence that felt revolutionary. Before Marvin, romance records existed, sure. But Marvin didn't sound like he was politely asking for love. He sounded like he was claiming a right to pleasure. And in the early 70s, that mattered, because society was changing. People were challenging old rules about marriage, about religion, about gender roles, about what private life should look like. And that's the 70s in a nutshell. It wasn't one mood. It was a whole world. And these songs didn't just survive controversy. They became the blueprint. Because once music learns it can tell the truth like this, whether it's politics or pleasure, everything after has to rise to that level. Let me tell you what made this one feel like a bomb in slow motion. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dirty, it didn't scream for attention, it was classy. Me and Mrs. Jones sounded like a clean suit, like candlelight, like an expensive lounge where everybody speaks softly, and that's exactly why it shook people. Because this song is about an affair, and it tells the story with tenderness. It doesn't frame the lovers as villains. It frames them as humans, caught in a situation they can't stop. And in 1972, that was controversial because public culture still liked to pretend that romance had rules and people followed them. And that's why it's a classic scandal maker. It forces you to wrestle with your feelings. You can't just dance it away.
At the same cafe, 6:30.
You have to face the story. And the scary part is, the record doesn't end with consequences. It ends with longing. That's why it sticks. Because it sounds like real life. Messy, emotional, and unresolved. Now this song is basically the spiritual cousin of Me and Mrs. Jones, but with the volume turned up on the moral argument. Because Luther Ingram isn't just telling a story, he's defending himself. The title alone is an argument. If loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. That's not a man confused. That's a man committed. And that's what made it controversial. It's one thing to confess temptation. It's another thing to plant your feet in it and say, I know it's wrong. I'm doing it anyway. You can picture the setup. He's with someone he shouldn't be with, and the stakes are high, and he knows he's about to hurt people. But he also feels like he can't breathe without that person. That's taboo storytelling. Not because the song is explicit, because it dares to tell you that sometimes desire wins. And that idea makes people uncomfortable, because it threatens the fantasy that we're all in control. Now we step into a different kind of scandal. Because Betty Davis wasn't controversial just for what she said. She was controversial for how she existed. Betty Davis made a lot of people nervous because she didn't perform like the acceptable version of a female singer at the time. She wasn't trying to be sweet. She wasn't trying to be delicate. She wasn't trying to be polite. She was bold, raw, funky, sexual in a way that felt like she was driving the car instead of riding in the passenger seat.
Well, say you will.
Why is it cool when men make sexual records, but too far when women do it with the same confidence? Betty Davis didn't just make scandal. She exposed double standards. And that kind of controversy lasts. Now this one is legendary scandal, because Lady Marmalade wasn't just a hit. It was a phrase. It was a whisper in school hallways. It was a joke people repeated without fully understanding. It was a "don't sing that part around adults" record. And the hook, "Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir?" That line became the entire controversy because it was French, which meant a lot of people were singing it without knowing what they were saying. And a lot of older folks knew exactly what it meant and were not amused. So you had this hilarious cultural split. Kids and teenagers chanting it like it's just a catchy sound. It was controversial for the whole statement. Women can be loud, sexual, stylish, and in control, and still be mainstream. That shook people. And it also thrilled people. That's why it never goes away. It's scandal with sparkle.
If this song just hit you in that quiet place, don't let this moment be a one-time thing. Subscribe to Demo. We're building a home for real R&B and soul. The kind that heals, the kind that tells the truth. Hit subscribe and come back whenever you need a song that understands you.
And now we're at number 1, the record that, to me, represents the exact moment the 70s crossed a line and never went back. Because Love to Love You Baby didn't just suggest sex, it performed it. This was the song where people didn't just say, "Oh, that's a grown record." They said, "Can they even play that?" And the answer depended on where you were and who was listening. What made it controversial is simple: the moans, the breathing, the feeling that the microphone was too close to something private. This didn't sound like romance. It sounded like a bedroom with the door open. And in 1975, that was explosive. That's why these records still get debated. Because they didn't just reflect the 70s. They helped shape what music was allowed to say after the 70s. And if you lived through it, you remember the feeling. Sometimes you loved the song, but you still reached for the volume knob. Because controversy isn't always about hate. Sometimes controversy is just the sound of the culture changing, loud enough that nobody can ignore it. The journey doesn't end here. R&B soul lovers, watch this next.